See this little fella, Victor? He was the boy who laid on his friend during the Minnesota, I think it was the Minnesota school shooting. Yay for him. He's going to grow up to be a fine man. Fine man. He didn't think of himself first. He thought of others. So that was very nice. I wanted to let that be seen. And now let's get the show started.
Life is a funny old broad. She keeps you guessing.
Well, hello, everybody. Okay. Polls and debates. A friend of mine, we're both columnists, write for this, that, and the other, and his name is Wallace Garneau. He posted one day, I'm going to read this to you. He said, Ben Shapiro has released a video on how to win every debate. Believe it or not, but you don't want to win every debate. He says, Wallace says, I am an amazing debater. And when I was debating competitively in high school, my dad thought that my studying how to debate was holding me back by allowing me to win debates I should have lost. In other words, I got so good at the process of debate that it hindered my learning. The most difficult lesson of my life was learning how to see when I should lose, or at least learning to see when someone had a point that was worth looking at more closely, even if I could still dismantle it in a competitive context. From there, I eventually learned how to use debate to test ideas without necessarily trying to win the debate. That does not mean I lose debates. I still often win, even when wrong. But at least now I've gotten better at recognizing when I need to rethink my positions in order to take relevant information into account. And that is something everyone should learn to do. The goal is to become more correct over time, which of course means sometimes changing your beliefs. Only a fool wants to win every debate. The real goal should be to test ideas and, when appropriate, to learn. So Wallace loses debates, according to what he said. He often wins even when he's wrong. Okay. Excuse me. I've got this piece of pollen stuck in my throat. I hate debates. I've never liked debates. I will not debate. I will either have a conversation with someone wherein, because I never try to win or lose, I may believe I'm right, but I want whoever it is I'm talking to be able to have the same option of being listened to thoroughly as I would want someone to listen to me thoroughly, which doesn't mean that it's a polite conversation back and forth. People will get all excited, and I don't mind about being excited, but I always start any conversation with two thoughts in my mind. One, that what I'm talking about is something I have researched, I've looked at from many different points of view. I may have talked to others in the past about it. And I now have formed an opinion based upon what I think are reasonable facts and reasonable, facts. There you go. And I've tested them. Now, does that mean that I am right about it all? No. But it means that I have not just opened my mouth and blurted out something as if just because I had this thought made it right. Just because I feel good about it made it right. Because that is not true. It's not true at all. So when I want to talk on a subject, I'll listen. And then I'll question. What does that mean? Okay, and what does that mean? And how do these things fit together? And did you think about this? And did you think about that? This is what I do. I do it with everybody. And some people say, well, Angela, I know you. And I've heard somebody make a statement and you go, yeah, well, that's not right. Let me tell you why. Boom, you didn't listen to them. Well, that you know of. Maybe this person has said it before, or maybe he's not the first person I've heard to say it. And I will say, well, boom, boom, boom. And that's okay. But it's not for the purpose of debate. It's for the purpose of moving a conversation forward and getting past whether or not someone just feels good about what they're saying or believes what they're saying just because that's what they would prefer, or if there's sound reasoning. So if somebody is, if I say, well, no, that's not it, and here's why, I would expect them to be able to come back and say, well, maybe, Angela, you hadn't thought about this, that, or the other. And if they do not come back at me with, Angela, maybe you haven't thought about this, that, or the other, and here's how it fits, and here's why I believe the way I do. If they come back with me, not with that, but with, well, I feel very strongly about it. Well, then I already I don't want to talk to you, because they're not willing to look at what they believe. Now, I've always, okay, you may know this from other videos of mine, but my nickname growing up was Angie Ah. But that's not how they said it. There came a point where one of my brothers, he just started calling me Angie Ah, Angie Ah. And he called me here a few months ago and he said, Angie, do you remember what your nickname was growing up? I said, yeah. He said, no, you don't. What was it? I said, it's Angie Ah. And he said, yeah, that's right. I said, but do you know why it was Angie Ah? He said, no. It's just what we all called you. I said, well, it's because, and it started very young. The earliest I can remember of hearing Angie Ah was when I was 4, and my grandfather had brought me a little Timex watch on the little stretchy band. Oh, that was just awesome. But what is it? My sister already knew what a watch was. She was happy to get hers. She could tell time. She knew all her ABCs. She knew numbers well past 100, and she was 15 months younger than me. She is very, very smart. But I looked at it, and my grandfather's putting it on my wrist, and I'm like this. I don't know what it is. Why is he putting it on my arm? What does it do? I had all these questions, and every time he gave me the next bit of information, my little brain would go blinkety, 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 and then I would come out with another question until finally, after many questions, and I'm only 4, he said, Angie, ah, and that's the first time Angie ah was used. I know some of y'all are watching this and going, yeah, I still hear people going, Angela, when they talk to me, Angie, ah. Well, I've always been that way. So I get married. Now, he was a cutie pie. I'm just going to tell you up front. He was a cutie pie. And his daughter, our daughter, got all his good looks. Man, she just good looks. So he's a cutie pie. And I'm not saying that didn't play a part in why I married him. But the other thing about him was that he was extremely smart. And I thought, oh, this is great. I'll be able to ask him questions about stuff and he can answer them and I can learn because I wanted to learn. Okay. what I found out is that he thought I was trying to debate him because I would say, well, what is it you're doing? And he would say, and I go, but what is it? Well, how is it you do it? Why are you choosing that way to do it? What if I was to try to do it and I did it this way? What would happen? And he would go, Angie, I don't have time to debate with you. But I'm not debating. I'm trying to find out how to do it. I've never seen this before. This is awesome. Teach me all you know. He could not understand that I was seeking knowledge. He thought I was arguing with him. That was what he meant by debate. He thought I was arguing. And to me, debating is arguing. And there's nothing wrong with setting forth the arguments for what you believe or why you believe. But arguing and debating, you fisticuffs and violence and all that sort of thing follows. Debate is a war of words. I wasn't trying to argue with him, and I wasn't trying to debate him. He was showing me stuff I'd never seen before, and I wanted to know. I finally just stopped asking him after a while because it was causing more grief than what learning was coming from it. And it really, I know I divorced him, and that really hurt my feelings. For many years, I just stopped asking him anything. You don't talk to me anymore. Well, you always think I'm trying to argue. Well, you are. No, I'm not. But that's okay if that's what you think. I'm just not going to say anything. And I know y'all are probably thinking, Angela, not talking? Yeah, well, there was a time I was very, very quiet. And I had to really pick and choose, even out in public, in a crowd. We're all talking about stuff. I had to pick and choose whether or not I would join in if he was there because he would get mad. So when it comes to debating, I don't like it. I like to discuss stuff. I like to ask questions. Well, tell me what you know. I'm happy to listen. And then it came to conversations about God and the Bible and morals and let me think what else. Spirituality, health, anything like that. I don't want to debate. I don't want to talk to somebody and ask them for advice when they think they know it all. I've got a really good allergist right now. His name is George Gottlieb, Dr. George Gottlieb in Decatur. And he actually understood my situation. He let me explain it. He asked questions. I told him what I found. And he even told me one day, he said, you're fun to talk to. He says, you're challenging me even because I'd say, well, I looked up this stuff and I don't know if you've seen it or not. And he'd say, no, I haven't. Or he'd say, wow, I missed that. Or then he would tell me, well, in my, he does a lot of research too. He says, in my research, I have found this, this, and this. And I go, that fits in great with what I'm thinking about. Boom, boom, boom. And we've been able to get a course of treatment that suits this body that is Angela. Not a stick figure of a potential what a patient may or may not be. I like that kind of interplay with a doctor or a mechanic or a house builder or a handyman or somebody I'm talking to about the Bible. See? People are in different places at different times with a different set of knowledge every time you see them, a lot of times, if they're trying to really learn. So discussions, if I feel like a topic is very important to know about accurately, then I will absolutely do a lot more research, a lot more playing this or the other, if this, then that. How does it fit together? How's it not fitting together? And especially in spiritual matters, there is a lot of, there's this lady called Susie Kelly. She's passionately Catholic. And she has a website called, I think it's called Passionately Catholic. And she puts out these things on the radio, these little recordings. And then on the website, she does all the recordings and you can listen to them. And they all seem to be about those, who are Catholic and what their belief is. And she's passionately Catholic about subject A, B, or C. And some of her stuff, it is fun hearing her on the radio. I'm not Catholic. I don't believe anything at all like the Catholics do. But she is speaking, I believe, to Catholics or lapsed Catholics. So she's got that audience there. But there's some things I just go, gee whiz. The reason she believes it is because of tradition. It's tradition. No biblical reference, none. It's all tradition. And so therefore, if I was to ever sit down with her and discuss, I probably wouldn't be allowed to, because she is passionately Catholic and believes the tradition as handed down by the church leaders. Whether the Bible says anything about it or not never enters into it for her. It's tradition. It's a doctrinal thing based on tradition. I do not go that way. It's in the Bible. Let's read it. Let's see how it fits. Let's see how that same principle, whatever it is, fit in different situations in the Bible through different characters that were in it. Let's see how that played out. Therefore, we can start to get the mind of God. And that is what I want, is the mind of God. I don't debate religion. I refuse to. I will discuss it. I will have a Bible. I will have scriptures that I will have identified as being on this subject. And I will have figured out how they work together. And I'm willing to share that. And that's all I'm doing is sharing. And if you believe it or not, or don't want to look into it, that's your decision. Completely 100%. And I would want somebody, when they're speaking of their beliefs, I would want them to know that I would listen, and I would allow them to put forth whatever their argument was. And now, if we wanted to talk about the differences and why there were differences, and how once we look at the scripture, because they better have scriptures too. If they don't have scriptures, then it's just their opinion. And how they would then be able to say, well, when I read this in the Bible, it says this, this, and this. And you're telling me that my conclusions are incorrect. Why? I would do the same with them. And then we would just discuss it. It's reasoning on the scriptures. We need to reason on the scriptures. We don't need to debate them and win a debate. God does not want us to win debates about his mind, about what he wants us to do. So I would never have chosen, like Wallace did, I would never have chosen to be part of a debating society or anything like that. To me, it's a waste of time. Totally a waste of time. In fact, to me, it seems like it's entertainment. Everybody's like, woohoo, you got him good. That one, zing, burn, whatever they want to call it. To me, that's a waste of time. And I don't know what the purpose of it is. Do they keep score? Is there the great debate off, like the Super Bowl or the baseball one? What's the big game at the end called the baseball game? See, I'm not into sports either too much. Super Bowl. And then there's the 7-game playoffs. I don't even know what they call it for baseball. There is nothing like that for debates that I know of. They're all one-offs. Maybe they're not one-offs. I don't know. And how do you keep score? And who's to say who won? Is it debate style? If they use a particular debate thing, a method, do they get 1 point, 2 points, 3 points? You see, I don't know. It's a waste of time to me. I do agree, though, that Wallace says the goal is to become more correct over time, which of course means sometimes changing your beliefs. Only a fool wants to win every debate. The real goal should be to test ideas and, when appropriate, to learn. But that's not what people think of when they think of debate. They think of zingers, shutting the other person down, leaving them with nowhere to go. So, I could be wrong about that, but I watched at the Oxford Union, when I see Ben Shapiro has been there, Charlie Kirk has been there, Jordan Peterson has been there, other thought leaders from both sides of the aisle, as they say, have been at the Oxford Union. They've debated students. Everybody has jumped up with whatever. There's even this one where the person is here, the main guy's here, and then in a big circle around, they have 30 minutes, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds or a minute to make a point. Boom, 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 boom. That's entertainment. That's just entertainment. Is anybody's mind really ever changed? Is there time to test out? What did he say? To test the idea? No. People come, they're ready, it's the showdown at high noon. My idea beat your idea. Waste of time. Waste of time. I prefer to have a conversation with people so that after we've parted, they will say, she had a point. Let me think on that. And that's the best it can be. That's the best it can be. Lord have mercy. And I really hated that my husband, he's now dead, so I can talk about him, didn't like being questioned. When the only reason I was questioning him was because I knew he was very smart and I could learn. He thought I was trying to prove that he was stupid somehow and that I was smart. Never entered my mind at all. That's just a real sad thing. Real sad. Very sad. But he's dead, and he's out of whatever pain he had with his issues. And so that's a happy thing. That's a happy thing. Okay, everybody. We're going to end this here recording. And I'm going to play my outro because I am a funny old broad.
She treats you right. She surprises you right at the end. Yeah, life is a funny old broad.
Forgot to push the end recording. It's now being pushed.